one of the things that has been going on that I've been seeing a lot of, this year, towards the end of last year, is that big tech and media companies are laying off. It seems like a lot of folks. Now, it isn't as bad as last year. 2023, believe it or not, was the worst year in the tech sector, going all the way back to like 2000, 2001. Those were really bad years, but that was after the dot-com bubble. But it just feels like it because there's a lot of folks that are getting laid off. So I kind of want to just get your take on this, because here's the thing. Even though there are seemingly a lot of people in tech that are getting laid off, and I want to be specific, it's not all tech, it is big tech companies. Google, Facebook, Spotify, Meta, these big tech company names that you hear where folks are getting laid off. But when it turns out, is like there's way more people that are working in tech now than there were last year, just not at the big tech companies. It's like if you go work at a hospital and work in tech, you're still working in tech, but you're not necessarily getting laid off. You're trying to hire your friends. If you're working at a construction company, you're not necessarily getting laid off. You're working in tech, but you just need to get some of your friends to come in. So I wanted to kind of get some of your takes on, why do we seemingly see so many big company layoffs, but it may not actually be as bad as it is?
I don't want to say I would attribute it to, but I'm equally as curious as to why there were so many big hires during the pandemic in the first place. I would definitely like to hear what, business tech folks have to say. Now, my assumption or speculation is, these companies, when was it Biden? It was Biden sent out those stimulus checks and we got that little measly couple $100. I think some of these companies got big money and they used that to hire all those folks. And then when that money kind of ran out, now we're like, all right, let's get rid of these folks. Now, I could be totally wrong, but this is just my speculation. And I don't think it has anything to do with anything, changes in the job market or changes in, tech trends or, any of these things that you would think people say, okay, well, we need to let some people go as we focus on something else. It's just got everything to do with the money. But again, that's just me being a cynic.
It's definitely the money. And yeah, I would be curious as to, why, not necessarily why people had to hire more during the pandemic. I suppose there was some reason, we needed more laptops and more people needed to work at Zoom to make remote everything and virtual everything, work better. But what I don't understand is how they're never able to sort of predict the trend for when it's going to roll back, because it's always cyclical, right? And it's always going to roll back. And I guess that's just what we're seeing now. And they just don't really necessarily care, for lack of a better word, that they're going to have to roll it back. But, we're seeing that. We're seeing copycats, because once one person does it and gets away with it, everybody is going to do it. And to the AI costs a lot of money. And, a lot of the tech companies are trying to free up space, in their salary cap, basically to throw towards AI. And so that, I think I don't know that that's the biggest part of it, but I know that's definitely a part of it as well.
Can I pop in here?
Yeah,
You hear me?
Yeah,
I'm sorry. There was a delay on my side. No, so I agree with Terrance. I think a lot of these companies received those PPP loans. And part of the stipulation of PPP loan is you had to hire, you had to retain who you had, and they got bonuses if they hired, and then they'll allow them to keep that money. So as you said, that money's starting to run out. That is at least one reason. And then Stephanie, you have another really good point about why didn't they predict this? Well, part of them making more money is the layoffs, because stock goes up. The stockholders, shareholders love when there are layoffs, because the stock always pops up. So it's like losing people is a money maker, and you never thought that would be a thing, but that's how these companies roll these days. So,
and it's crazy, as I'm a novice, very very novice stock investor, right? And I'm always, not necessarily always, but I'm on the hunt for the the next stock that could be going up. And, when the stock goes up, especially a stock that I already own that goes up, I'm like, yes. And then on the podcast, I say, I hate big tech.
And it's all about the money.
Because they lay it.
Yeah.
And on the other hand, next day, I'm opening up my portfolio.
And sidebar, just FYI, to show you how really backwards and screwed up we are as a capitalist society, you can get forgiveness for all of these PPP loans. All of these folks that got this PPP money can get loan forgiveness. However, folks like me who are self-employed, who got economic EIDL, economic something disaster loans, we still got to pay our shit back. And they want their money every month on the dot. But, somebody that got 6 figures, 7 figures ain't got to pay back a dime. I was like, what? That's some bullshit. But that's just
I think all of y'all are on to a lot of it. So the big reason is that during the pandemic, there was an absolute fear by all these big tech companies that if we lay people off right now, 2 things are going to happen. They're not going to be our patrons when we come out of this, which means we're not going to make money. And we're not going to be able to get money as easily as we can get it today from the government. So we have 2 streams of revenue that are major for us that are going to be highly impacted, because if we're not doing anything to try to help the country out, and in a time like this, people are going to say, well, when else would you ever do this? So that was a big part of it. They wanted to make sure that they maintain those numbers. They didn't want to lay people off. They wanted to, because they were getting, government assistance, let's keep these people employed. And I think that they ended up overhiring during the pandemic. And a lot of last year, a lot of 2023 was just right sizing what we've done. I think where we are now, this is back to the normal. There's just going to be a lot of layoffs at the end of Q4 and the beginning of Q1, because folks want to go into their new year, their new fiscal year, without having all of this, people on the books if they can avoid it, because it makes them look better. As Trent was saying, as Terrance was saying, rather, there is there's a lot of companies that have been reporting in the last week or two, and for a lot of them, things are looking really good. But, things that they've done to make themselves look good is, oh, yeah, we're laying off 1,000 here. We're laying off 1,200 here. We're laying off 1,800 there. Whatever the case is, they've gone and they've made these trims. And that does, unfortunately, I don't want to say unfortunately, because it's just a thing of how the market works. It's just capitalism. But that looks good to investors. It's like, oh, you've gotten these people off your books. That's going to mean a bigger dividend for me. So that is one big part of it. And then, Steph, you said on this, the other part of it is that they just needed somebody to go first. A lot of these companies aren't doing layoffs because you cannot tell me that Meta right now, with the week they had after the numbers that
everybody on their team that they can get.
They just did a dividend for the first time. So it's like, the first time that they've actually done one. But same thing with Microsoft. Microsoft is killing it right now. But they've done layoffs. It's like, hey, we bought Activision. It cost us $68 billion. We need to get some stuff off the books.
We just gave OpenAI $3 billion. It's
exactly.
Crazy.
So a big part of this is they have other things to pay for, and there is still a continuation of the right siding. But as I was saying, at the top of the story, this is big tech, the big giant tech companies that we're hearing. When you think about the jobs market right now, we are darn near at a 50-year low for unemployment. We just came off of the all-time record. Now it's like, we haven't been this low in the last 50 years, except for the all-time high that we just hit. So there are people who are absolutely being hired. It's just not these big tech companies. And I think now that if you have more than an employee or two, you're almost a tech company, because you're doing something with computers and you need someone to keep those things up and running. And clearly the bigger companies, the big marketing firms, the big construction companies, the hospitals, definitely hospitals, manufacturing, market, they all have enormous tech, components to their business. And although those jobs don't sound as sexy as going to work for Google or sound as sexy as going to work for Meta, there are people who are compensated quite well working in tech at companies that you never think of at tech.
We said that last week, and Terrance says it all the time. Stop chasing clout and wanting to be with Tim Cook and them, you know what I mean? And go get you a good government job or something to that effect. Because if you have, these types of skills, you will get hired somewhere. It may not necessarily be in the Valley, doing the shiny, glossy thing, with the Googles of the world, but go get you a job and stop tripping.
Yeah, go ahead, Lamar.
No, I was going to agree. I was like, it could be in a hospital somewhere. One of my friends working a hospital in tech, and it's killing it, making all kind of money because they have it. But I was going to say before that, as for the person, I've never been laid off, so I don't have the experience. I work for myself most of the time. But you got the people who get laid off. Look at these numbers, like you were just talking about the job numbers, 50-year low on unemployment, and then all the annual reports are coming out about how great everybody's doing. They made $10 billion in profit in a quarter, and it just doesn't look right. Like the math does not math for the everyday person. If you're doing so great and unemployment is so low, and the Biden economy is doing great, and I agree, on paper it looks like it is, it doesn't still translate like that to everyday folks. And there's a problem there, and I don't know how we fix that because it just doesn't look right to everyday people.
And like you said, and especially like going back to the stock market, when you look at the stock and then the stock is climbing, the same company, last week, 2 weeks ago, last month, laid off 10,000 people, and then now you turn back around, CNBC says, oh, so and so his stock is tripled 30%, and then you sitting at home, right, laid off, no job. It's like, wait a minute,
it's at an all-time low. What's going on?
Y'all told me on the Zoom when y'all fired me over Zoom that we had to restructure due to budget cuts. I'm like, come on, man, which one is it?
And here's the thing, although two things are true. Unemployment is ridiculously low right now, but if you just got laid off in the last 6 weeks, it sucks because it's like you had money coming in, and if it's been like if you got laid off 6 weeks ago, depending on your company, that severance may be run out right now. Maybe if you're lucky, you got another 6 weeks. You get some benefits, but we always feel for the people who are in it right now. But like I said, Terrance, you have been a champion of this since we've started doing this show. You have to basically look beyond just the tech companies. I'm doing the air quotes for folks who cannot see me right now. Every company has tech. And if you are in the field, you want to look at the grocery stores. You want to look at the mall, the company that runs the mall. They all have massive tech infrastructure that needs to be supported. And like I said, it's not as sexy as going to work for Google. It's not as sexy as going to work for Uber and stuff like that.
You ain't gonna have no ping pong table in your break room or free snacks on the counter, but damn it, go get that check.
Right.